You are getting ready to listen to the voice of Dr. Rhadi Ferguson, 2004 Olympian, four-time national judo champion, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, author, speaker, and coach.
Hey, what's going on, man? This is Dr. Rhadi Ferguson, 2004 Olympian, four-time national judo champion, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, author, speaker, and coach. And welcome to another edition of Coffee with Rhadi. Man, I'm outside walking this morning with my coffee in my hand, getting my cardio in bright and early. And I want to tell you this, man. I had a great opportunity this past weekend. Not only did I go to a fantastic comedy show, but earlier that day, I watched a movie. I had the opportunity to sit down and watch a movie. I believe it was on Amazon Prime or Netflix. I don't remember which one. I really don't ever have a lot of time to sit down and just kind of, veg out and watch, a show on television. And I was recommended by a friend to watch A Night in Miami. I think it's called A Night in Miami. It's a movie that was directed by Regina King. Man, I love Regina King and her acting skill. I remember when she was in the movies back in the day, and I mean, it was just absolutely fantastic. She directed this movie called A Night in Miami that surrounded itself around Malcolm X, Jim Brown, and Muhammad Ali, and Sam Cooke. And what transpired, a few days before Malcolm X was assassinated, and the things that were going on at that time. And it was really good to see like a behind the scenes view of the different portions and parts and representatives of Black America at that particular time. You had Jim Brown, hardcore, strong guy, really respected, who was a football player, all right? Really on the back in the day, really, a quiet, strong, pro-black type is what he was back in the day. Then you had Malcolm X, who was in the Nation of Islam, was getting ready to break away and become more of an Orthodox Muslim. And then you had Muhammad Ali, who, man, Muhammad Ali, the greatest in the world. Ruffled feathers was really disliked at the time by many people in America, a lot of people in white America at the time. Well, everybody loves him now, but they didn't love him then, okay? Who was getting ready to convert and join the Nation of Islam, and then understood that he was just joining for a period of time, because later he became a more traditional Orthodox Muslim. Then you had Sam Cooke, a old school Christian guy who falls off the rails a little bit with his wayward activities, loves the women, who took a lot of the music out of the black church, used it as his foundation for his brand or his version of soul music. Because, man, I haven't even seen anybody be able to duplicate what Sam Cooke has done. The closest that we've seen is probably R. Kelly. No matter how you feel about him, that's the closest that we've seen to that type of smooth voice and what he's done in music. But when it comes to the ownership of music and owning his own tracks and owning his own masters, there's only a couple people that we've seen like that. Ray Charles, people like Master P. We haven't seen people like that. The amount of money that Sam Cooke and that Sam Cooke's trust still makes is unbelievable, because he owned his own music even back then. And the wonderful thing was to see the harmony among those four dudes, but also to see the dichotomy in their different approaches for empowerment of Black America at that time. I didn't even know that they had a relationship like that until I watched the movie. It was absolutely fantastic to see it. And in today's social and political climate, these type of movies are really good because it gives people insight on things that happened then and things that happen now. And it allows people to have some level of clarity per their nebulous thought process when it comes to historical facts and how things were at that time. I remember when I was younger, we would take trips. We'd take long trips up I-95. And my mom used to, fry up the chicken and put it in the little tin can and, wrap it up and kind of separate it by the napkins or paper towels, and everything is wrapped up. And then she has some cornbread in another can. And then they have, the little, sometimes some sodas or some Pepsis in the back of the car. And I was watching a documentary today, early today. Well, last night. Everything is running together because it's early in the morning. Well, last night, about how the people in the South were talking about how in the 60s and 70s and 80s, at night, they didn't stop and use the restroom. They didn't go buy stuff to eat. And they did all day driving. And when they drove at night, they didn't stop at all. And how they had to use the bathroom on the side of the road when they had to pee, or pee in a bottle or a cup or something. And how they cooked the food and put it in the can. And they were telling these stories, and it never dawned on me that, okay, this is exactly what my parents used to do. If you meet any Black folks like my age, they'll tell you about that little cookie can where the people fried up the chicken and put it in the can when we went on the long rides. And the reason why that happened is because, man, you couldn't stop. I lived in South Florida. You couldn't take no trips when you're on Alligator Alley, stopping at night, and you couldn't drive up to Georgia and stop at night, even in the 80s. You can't stop at night in South Carolina on the road, and you just didn't do stuff like that. I don't care what people say or what. You didn't do stuff like that. And my parents had these, we would call them preparatory things in place, but they were actually protection mechanisms to keep me safe and to keep the family safe. And I never realized all the stuff that was in my background, in my growing up experiences, that had to do with me being a little Black boy in America, born in the 70s, growing up through the 80s, and my parents just trying to just damn keep me alive. It was something, and I can see that now because I'm older and I went to school with Prince Jones, Ta-Nehisi Coates. I went to Howard at the same time and I did, along with Prince Jones. Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote in his book, Between the World and Me. He wrote in his book about Prince Jones being killed by the police, and I was on the track team with Prince Jones at Howard University. I was at Howard and was pulled out of my car with the gun put on my head by the police and thrown on the ground, and then another time jammed up against the wall. I mean for nothing. And I think to myself how things could have just went so awry. And And it just burns me up, and it makes me so angry at times when I see people post this data, the FBI data online. Like the things that happen to me, they don't fall under, there's no FBI data for that. There's my story, and if it's told, it's told, and if it's not, it's not. I remember and I thank God for for my children being in the car, but they were so small at the time that you couldn't see them over the seat because they were little, and they were in their car seats, and like a little booster seats. That's how old they were. And I was in Boynton Beach, Florida, and I had just got done registering for a judo tournament, and I got ready to go on I-95 to go back to the hotel. So I merged on the I-95, and two police cars came behind me. And for two police cars to come behind me merging on I-95, they had to be following me as soon as I got into my car at the hotel, or had seen me somewhere, getting ready to get on 95. I get on 95, and as soon as I merge, police cars come. Now my kids, because my children, and I have to tell people this because a lot of people who don't have, if you don't have little black children or little brown children, you don't understand the anxiety and trauma that happens when they hear a police siren. And people say, oh, they didn't do that. Yeah, but in the community in which I live in, their stories that they hear are so different, I remember my mom and dad telling me, I said, man, the internet just makes this stuff new. She said, this stuff used to happen all the time. People would show up on their doorstep, beaten up by the police or killed by the police, and nobody didn't say nothing. She said my mom said there was no Facebook to go on to. There was no phones to record anything. She said you just took that ass whooping and went home and was happy that you were still alive. But my kids, man, I remember them being so just scared, and the police came up to the car, one on one side and one on the other. On the right side, the gun was already out and drawn, and so I could see it. And on the other side, guy had his he walked up with his flashlight. I rolled down the window, I put both hands out the window so they can see my hands. And my son and my daughter in the back, Daddy, what's going on? I said, hey man, y'all calm down, everything's gonna be all right. And the police walked up to the car. He said, how you doing this evening? I said, I'm fine, officer. I said, how are you? I said, will you let me know why I pulled you over? Why you pulled me over? He said, I pulled you over because you merged onto the expressway aggressively. I said, I said, sir, could you repeat that one more time for me, please? He said, you merged onto the expressway aggressively. I said, sir. I said, this is I-95. I said, how would you have me merge onto the expressway? Well, it just seemed like, I said, sir, it's impossible for me to be speeding because I'm merging onto the expressway. And it's impossible for me to merge at 65, 70 miles per hour. So what is the infraction here? He said, you were driving recklessly. I said, sir, I have two small children in the back, which he then flashed the flashlight in the back. Once he flashed the flashlight in the back and saw my two kids, the whole tone of the conversation changed. He said, all right, sir, we just thought you merged on the expressway aggressively. You take care and you have a nice evening. I thought to myself, I said, wow. I said, this is how things just go completely awry. I mean, just completely awry. I'm telling that story to you today so that you have the same thing that I had when I watched A Night in Miami, which is perspective from hearing different stories and understanding different situations. I don't have time to argue about the true parts of my life to somebody else. I just ask for people to be able to have some acceptance. And if you can't work your way all the way to acceptance, at least park yourself at Tolerance Avenue. Man, this is Dr. Ferguson. Remember, I love you, but God loves you best. Please do me a favor and get the book Coffee with Rhadi. Go to www.coffeewithrhadi.com and have a super fantastic day.